Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. What a difference 24 hours makes, huh, BigBeat? Everybody's buying some stock today, right? And I guess AI isn't dead. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, look, I heard that the internet is dead in 1995. I heard that so many times that I just snickered and laughed all the way to the bank. And AI is dead. I'm already hearing that. It's silly talk, right? Because AI is here and it's here to stay. And the number of people that are literally now on ChatGPT can't wait to be on Grok, can't wait to be on Anthropic, Perplexity. It's just a whirlwind right now. And we're seeing that everywhere, right? And I think that's what's cool about the AI world is that we're not even in the first pitch of the first inning of any of this AI world. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, there's something very interesting. Obviously, tonight is the earnings for NVIDIA, right? Talking about AI. And I just saw a post a few minutes ago that Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, is scheduled to be on CNBC at 7 o'clock tonight Eastern time. All right. Look, the CEO of a major corporation with a major earnings is not going to go on TV unless they have a major beat. So if you think that NVIDIA didn't come out with some slamming numbers, you're silly. And I think that's why you're seeing yesterday's sell-off in NVIDIA right back up today. So I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to see some good numbers in NVIDIA.
Yeah, I don't argue that. And as I've pulled up what's moving so far in the pre-market, you can see Super Microcomputer leading the way. They did finally file their 10K and the stuff that they needed to do to get in compliance with the SEC. But then after that, like I said, you see it's Axon, it's Fanged, it's Talon Energy, it's the Vistra. It's all across that. The other thing that's back in the news today, Steve, is lunar and space travel, right? We're seeing again, it's funny how they're moving up together, but we're seeing space travel and AI spiking on the same day, right?
Yeah, I mean, 1962, we sent men up to the moon and around the world. Yes, they land on the moon. For those of you who don't believe it.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, sorry, you're an idiot. But the instrument panels of all of that, the Apollo missions, Mercury missions, all of them, now fits right here, right? In the future, I don't even think they're going to need that instrument panel. They don't even fly the thing anymore. It's all done by computers. It sends them up, it sends them back, right? Think about AI. It's going to be correcting they get in trouble up there. Something goes wrong. AI is going to fix it for them, right? Oh, you know what? Here's what's wrong. Oh, look, you watch movies today. Oh, they got to punch panels to fix the problem and they got to go replace a panel. That's not going to happen in the future, right? It's going to be AI. And when you look at it from the perspective of NASA and look at it from the perspective of SpaceX or Blue Origin, there are already companies that are already in AI, and they're going to need hardware to make that happen. They're going to need quantum computing on these missions. But yes, ASTR, LUNR, these companies are doing just that, landing these hardwares on the moon. We're going to have a moon base. So for those of you who don't believe we didn't land on the moon, we're going to have a moon base because that's where it's easier to go to the next level. So these things are already done. So why not invest in those companies that are already doing that? And this is where we're at.
Yeah, we have turned that corner, right? We were looking at these back in COVID, and they weren't flying yet, whether it be Lunar or AST or SpaceX or Blue Origin or any of them. But now they all are, and they're actually, now will turn profitable fairly quickly, probably.
Yes.
The other thing we got to talk about is again, AI is not dead. Of NRG and GE Verona are building four new power plants to power the AI generation needed. I did talk about that. I saw one of my congressmen here in Ohio on the local level, talking about the need to improve the electricity production in Ohio to keep up with the data centers they want to bring in. So we are seeing that both NRG and GE Verona moving up nicely today. They're going to build 4 new power plants. And then my last main sort of driver today, how about Chinese ADR stocks? They are all still booming. Baba,
But,
JD,
but we
PDD,
don't
all of them.
like China. We hate China. Blah blah blah. I've heard all this nonsense. Yeah, no. We this is the world that we live in. It's one of my rules, as you know, is to play the game in front of us. And the game in front of us is now that Trump is going to Russia. Trump is going to China. Trump is going to Taiwan. Trump is going to Ukraine. Look, we may not like how he's doing it. It's a sledgehammer kind of democracy. I call it sledgehammer diplomacy, I think. But it's happening. And I think we need to think about that. China is a very large player in Latin America. China is a large player in Africa. When you have commodities, when you have people. So look, China's companies, there's 1 billion people in China at Alibaba that are buying from Alibaba. Singles Day alone in November is the biggest sales day in the world. Not Valentine's Day here in the States, not Christmas or Hanukkah. It is Singles Day, and it's in China. And the same thing happens in India, right? India, 1 billion, 2 people, right? So we go where the money is, and that's why you're seeing these things happen now.
Yeah, and overnight we saw the Japan Nikkei 225 declined about 0.5 percentage point, pressured by Bank of Japan rate hike speculation. We'll talk a little bit with Stephen Flanagan at 10 o'clock about that, and U.S. chip export curbs. Chinese markets, like we said, have been lifted almost 1.3% today, lifted by hopes of a milder U.S. tariff under President Trump. And then Hong Kong's Hang Seng surged 7%, fueled by a tech rally again in AI stock buying. One of the things that I noticed listening to the talking heads today was a couple of folks, Ray Dalio being one of them, and they asked him, what's the best way to invest in this? And he pointed people towards these ADRs. I was a little surprised by that. Usually you hear people talk about the index funds that maybe track Japan or China. He said, no, I'd be buying these ADRs. So
you know why? It's very simple. He's telling you the same thing I've been saying. If you want to invest in these companies, not just China, but United States, wherever, it is a stock picker's market. It is not a market where you just buy the ETF. And if you want to invest in China, invest in best in class. He's right. ADRs are the American Depository Receipts. What it means is those are the stocks over there. They convert them through in this case, the Hang Seng, and it goes through the conversion for you for the dollar into the yuan or the renminbi, whenever they are in, because there's 2 different currencies over there. And it just does it here. So you don't have to have an account in China to buy these stocks. So he's right. And why not buy the ETF, BigBeat? Why not? Well, because you're paying fees, right? Management fees, and it's on top of all the other things. So why do all that, right? Just buy the ADR. If you like Baba, buy Alibaba, right? If you like Chinese stocks and you know the area that you want, the sector you want to be in, then, as I always say, invest in best in class.
Absolutely. Yep. So those are the main things I've seen so far. Bitcoin getting drilled here again, Steve. I know you're mad at me for that. I swear it wasn't me. I didn't sell anything.
I'm blaming you anyway.
86,320 here or so. I do think we fall down to that 85 level that I showed the other day. Let me pull that up here.
Yeah, I mean, the selling here is now at this point is just silly. If you're retail selling, you're being very stupid, because what you're doing is you're just selling into the Michael Saylors. You're giving them your Bitcoin that you held on for so long. Now, if you bought up there at 100,000 and you're selling now, if you liked it at 100,000, you're gonna freaking love it at 86,000. I mean,
well, it's funny you say that, but no one does. This is something that I've gone through for 4 years. Everybody bitches at me when it goes up to 100, and then says, "Oh, I should have bought more." And then when it drops back to that level where they said that to me, and I pointed out to certain people, as you know, they don't buy. And then they bitch again when it goes right back up.
I never heard so much screaming and crying at $950 on Bitcoin, went from $950 down to about $600. I never heard so much crying about Bitcoin that Bitcoin was over. You know what I did? I mean, I'll never forget it. I was on the train coming back from football game in DC, going back to the city, back to Manhattan, and I was on the train, and I ended up buying 10 more Bitcoin at the time. Right?
I remember that day.
Yeah, and guess what? I'm not crying now. I'm not happy that the selling is down 10,000. I'm not happy at all from 96,000 to down to here to 86,000. But I'm not crying, right? Because I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy more.
Yeah, and the move up, the last bull run, big move up was 2020, right? We had 4 different occasions where it took 30% retracements on that way up. So, this is what Bitcoin does. If you don't watch it enough, you don't realize that. But if you look at these spots here, it's done it time and time. We go to a weekly here.
Show me, tell me what. Right, today is February 26, 2025. Show me the price February 26th, 2024.
Oh God, it's down here at 50,000, 40,000
Correct.
in this
All you
range.
had to do was just hold it a year, buy and forget about it. And I think that's what people just cannot do. They get so nervous. They see these retracements. They know the volatility is very high. This is nothing in crypto. For those of you who are new to this and you're getting shook out, it's because you're a newbie. Stop being a newbie. Stop giving your Bitcoin to the banks. You're giving it to JP Morgan. You say you hate them. You say you hate the big banks. You're playing right into their hands.
And you can, like I said, you can point out a million times where Bitcoin has done this in the past. I would definitely be a buyer. I said 85,010 is where I've set in some wish lists here.
I like Solana down here. I think Solana being beat up at 135 is really good. I really like this.
Solana, your only issue there is there was a huge amount, as you know, I posted yesterday for you. FTX sold a bunch trying to get out of bankruptcy. Sam Bankman-Fried before they took him in, and he sold to Galaxy Digital, Panera, some of the largest market makers in the crypto world. So they got a ton of it a year and a half ago, 2 years ago at $60. I don't blame them. Their lockups are coming off. They're going to take some profit. That's their job, right? They're public companies. They need to take profit. So we're going to see that in Solana. So I do warn about that.
And we'll laugh at them like we laughed at Germany about selling their Bitcoin. Last year we'll laugh at them, and then in the future when it's at 600 and 6,000 and 10,000.
And the part that I won't be laughing at people, or I want to point out too, is crypto is always the first investments that's sold, right? Because why? It's the most liquid investment you can have.
Yeah.
You can sell it 24/7 and get it back into your bank account at almost any point. So we see it a lot, and we know that people are suffering right now, right? We know inflation is bad, and we've seen it. And that's what you sort of have going on is people are saying, you know what, I'm not going to sell my NVIDIA, but I'm going to sell my Bitcoin. I'm not going to sell my gold, but I'm going to sell my Bitcoin. One of the reasons being that is one of the great parts of Bitcoin is that liquidity is 24/7 and you can get it, right away. So, it's a drawback at some chains sometimes like this, but it is, a bonus or a benefit to Bitcoin on the bigger level. I'm not scared at all here on any of this stuff.
No.
And what I think is what I'm also seeing is the meme coin frenzy that has been bad for liquidity that I talked about with you over the last couple of weeks here is starting to dry up, and that is going to start to move back into the alts. So that's what normally happens. It moves from those and we'll go there. Staying in sort of the gaming sector there, Steve, one of your favorites, Intuit, moving up nicely here, up about 7.7%. You called that last week, man. You nailed it again. I'm seeing some huge numbers that they're looking at out of some of the analysts here. Goldman Sachs, $860. Let me get to today's sheet.
When you see the world falling apart and Chicken Little was running around their head coming cut off, as I said yesterday, 3 things happen. People drink more. You can look at Budweiser, InBev.
Yeah, right here.
And then you can look at gaming companies because they're playing games on their Xbox and they're playing games on their PlayStation and on their phone. And guess what? They're sitting at home doing those things, right? And the third thing that they're pretty much doing is they're, eating. And I think we can look at Pepsi stock to PEP, looking at, while it's not as much because of the weight loss drugs, I still think people are actually still eating junk food. And look at that stock. Look at that chart. That's we've been right. PEP up another 1.67% yesterday. Pepsi, if you don't know, is not just a cola products. It's
Lay's potato chip.
Yeah, they make all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
Frito-Lay. I don't argue that point at all. Things are moving up. I will warn people, these AI names, again, they're very volatile. So, if you're in Vistra and Pony AI and some of these that are moving up tremendously today, again, keep an eye on them because they do turn around fairly quickly. You can just look at this weekly chart on Pony AI to see that, it made a move all the way up to 24, retraced back to 17, now trying to make a move up. So, keep in mind, make sure you're looking at it. And Steve, we got to talk about the $3.5 trillion gorilla in the room, right?
Oh,
NVIDIA today. Let's go, buddy. What are you thinking? I know that we are both long. We are both staying long. So I'm going to take that right out of the mix for everybody before you start asking us. We are both staying long here. We was looking at implied volatility. Ask Grok. I call it Gronk because I'm a Patriots fan. And ChatGPT some questions. They're looking for about a 10% move today. So, right now trading at 126. Question is, are we trading at 140? Or are we trading at 100 when we wake up tomorrow morning? Which way are you feeling there?
Okay. I don't care. If it goes way up, great. If it goes way down, awesome, right? This is what I love about the market. It's going to give me a position either way. I am long. I am heavy into this. I will be even more heavy if it falls. And I know people, it's overvalued. It's not overvalued. It's actually undervalued. What do you mean by that? I see the PE ratio. I see the price to sales. I see all those numbers. Great. Did you see the numbers in the future? Are you looking at what's going on in the future?
Right.
This is a $500 stock. Fantastic if it goes to $100, right? If it goes to 140, okay, great too, right? That's what I'm saying. NVIDIA is still the name for AI in the future. I don't care if you are DeepSeek or deep whatever. I would still want to say something else. But the issue here is that AI still needs you need hardware, right? And I can't buy the new chip. I can't even do it because you can't even buy it, right? I think I was watching earlier. There's a chance of the year-over-year sales at NVIDIA, year-over-year sales to be up 77%.
Yep.
Let me rephrase that. 77%. If I told you Apple was going to have sales up 77%, Apple stock would be up 50% today, right? That's what the difference is. And I want to hear what Jensen has to say about the future. He's already talking about things I don't even understand, and I'm really good at the future. I really understand. I see it very clearly. But this one's even bigger than what he's saying. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care which way it goes. I'm staying long. I'll grow that position even bigger if it falls. But right now, I'm gonna say long.
Awesome. I'm with you there. Got to point out AppLovin getting hit pretty hard here on a short seller report from Bear Cave. So even with Heidenberg being gone, it looks like the shorts are still trying to control the narrative here.
Let me tell you very quickly. I've been saying this for over a year and a half. Apps on your phone are dead. Okay. If I see another ad to me or someone that reaches out to me and says, Steve, I know how to build apps. So does everybody else, and so does AI. We don't need app companies anymore. App companies, app products, app play, they're gone. They're dead. Oh, but I have apps on my phone. How many do you use? Oh, well, 4 or 5. That's about all I ever use. Correct. I want to build one. So we did with Quasar Markets. We build it so all of the apps are in one little place without having to put an app. You go to quasarmarkets.com and it'll install into your phone. You don't even need an app anymore. And apps are dead. People say, oh, no, they're not. I use apps every day. Yes, you do, but you won't in 3 years. You won't. You won't be using apps. You'll be using a more of a modified type smartphone. We already are now. Think about it right now. Are you really going to Google to search all your stuff all the time? Nope. It's a great buy right now. But I'll tell you,
I'm using an app to do it. I'm going to my ChatGPT app, or I'm going to my Grok app. So I would argue that apps aren't dead. They're going to evolve.
Need it anymore.
They're going to evolve into a different form.
That's right.
And the reason apps aren't going to die are because of companies like McDonald's, Popeyes, and those that are trying to gatekeep their. What an app does is it gatekeeps you. It keeps you within one company, and that's why
you really like that. Do you like?
I don't necessarily like it, but I have to use it. In other words, if I want the discounts that McDonald's offers, I have to use it. If I want to
go to McDonald's.com and do the exact same.
No, you cannot. You absolutely cannot. You cannot get the discounts. It's app only. Starbucks app only.
You will be able to in the future. You won't have to need the app, and that's why AppLovin is getting crushed right now. Because they realize that people are not investing in stocks because of what's today. because of the earnings today. It's about the future. We've seen earnings beat. 84% of the companies on the S&P are beating on the overall earnings. Now the earnings, some people can argue, say, oh well, the earnings have been lowered, the bar has been lowered a little bit. Yeah, it's true.
Correct. That's a tough. Yeah, that
It's
has
about it's about the future, right? It's about guidance, and guidance has not been good because they're worried about tariffs. They're worried about all the nonsense coming out of the White House. They don't want that. If you clean that up and stop talking about freaking tariffs, the market will explode, and that's why I'm buying right now. I think that this whole thing with tariffs is going to go away in the next few months, and I think there's going to be a lot of crying and people, oh, well, I sold, I shorted, I sold. Why didn't I buy down there? This is why you should be buying. This is why people are not paying attention, right? And I like this. This is what I always say. I like dumb money. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody. I don't care. I like dumb money. When people are selling, I'm freaking buying, right? When people are buying, I'm selling into that. Thank you, as I always say, and I want people to understand this. I want to be the ticker taker. I say this all the time. I want to be the person at the movie theater taking your tickets, saying, as they're coming in the gate, thank you. You want to go out the door? I'll take your ticket. You want now when you want to get out of the movie theater, thank you. Here you go. You can have mine. You can have mine. That's what I want from people. I want people to be more educated about this because I want people to realize that this is what the market is. The market does not, here's a good rule. The market does not give one bit of care about you. It is a machine. It is one person or one entity over here and one entity over here, and they're trying to make a bid and an ask, right? One's a buyer and one's an ask. When people ask me all the time, well, there's more sellers in the market. No, there's not. No, there's not. There's still the exact number of buyers as there is a seller. There has to be. That's what makes it zero. That's right. There has to be
has to be a buy for every sell.
But the question is, where are the buyers? The buyers are a little bit lower. Okay, great. That's where the sellers. They've got to come to where they are. And that's why I'm seeing this in Bitcoin and in AI, because the buyers are like, well, guess what? There's all this nastiness out in the markets. I'll just lower my buy. And then they got to reach to that. The sellers got to reach to get down there, right? That's why the market is falling as hard as it is. So if the buyers start to get nervous, they'll raise their stake of where they're willing to buy. That's the difference in the market right now.
Absolutely. Tick is negative about 71 here, but advanced decline nicely up about 2,000 as we're getting ready to get open here in about 8 minutes. QQQ up 52 basis points. The SPY up 38 basis points. Gold got hit a little bit here overnight too, Steve, huh? It looks like King Dollar is trying to make a move again. I will mention there too, though, I was looking at the Dixie before we came on, and you could see, oh, I'm on the wrong screen, that it's still in that mid 106.50 area. You know, it really hasn't broken out. In fact, it is sort of stuck at key resistance here. Hasn't been able to get above that 106.80 here. So be interesting to see. You know, gold pulled back pretty significantly. Silver had pulled back pretty significantly. Bitcoin, like I said, pulled back very much. Natural gas pulling back almost 3% here today. And we see gas prices at the lows, oil prices lows at 2025.
Yeah, because why? Because we just talked about this. I just said it. This is where the buyers and sellers are, right? So when money comes out of the stocks, when money comes out of crypto, it has to go somewhere, right? Where is it? Where is that money going? Is it going into commodities? Is it going into oil? Nope. Is it going into other stocks?
Going to money market funds.
Into money market funds. That's right. And a few other places. Is it going into gold right now? Nope. They're selling into gold to go in the money market funds. Why? Because they're raising cash. Why? Well, Mr. Uncle Warren Buffett raised a bunch of cash pile. Guess what?
Yeah.
Warren was already in cash.
Absolutely.
Right? I think people don't realize that. He's laughing now. He's like, well, now that everybody knows I'm in cash, guess where I'm going to go back? Right back into the market. So
yeah, it's funny with him because he is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Usually, Ultra was the one that sort of took that away off of my sort of wavelength, but before, anything you heard that he bought immediately went up because everybody else chased him. I think Ultra was the only one that really didn't, right?
If you want to talk about something interesting right now, and we talked about this the last couple of weeks, and the numbers came out this morning. It was the building permits numbers. Building permits numbers were revised lower here. We saw the new January permits, 2025 January permits. fell 0.6%. They even missed expectations of falling even more. The regional breakdown. I'm going to post this. I think I've got it here now. I'll show that it's at the bottom of the screen there. I think you can see it. There you go. In the Northeast, it was down 7%. And in the Midwest, it was up 2.3%. So that means people are leaving the cities or going into the Midwest again. All right, great. What's going to get them actually moving? I just looked over the 30-year bond, the 30-year in January, on January the 14th. The 30-year bond was at a little over 5%, 5.003%.
Yep.
Today, now less than 2 months gone and less than 60 days, we are now at 4.544%. Where we are, less than 30 days. Look at that. Look at that drop, right? We are back where we were in November of last year. We're back where we were in January of the year before. So what do I mean by that? Things are moving. People are taking money out of the stock market, out of gold, out of commodities, oil, gas, whatever they're looking, and they're looking to do something they haven't done in a long time. They're putting it in the money market. Howard just told you that. Where are they looking to put it? Well, they're not putting it into new homes. Where are they going to put it into? Homes that have not been sold.
Right.
The number of homes that are on the market are nearing an all-time high, right? That if you go to Florida right now, my goodness, you can buy a home for the first time in a long time. The Canadians ran away on tariffs. So guess what? 80 degrees outside today, right? That's what I'm telling people right now. They are preparing to not go on travel. They're not looking to go on Airbnb, and they're not looking to go travel around the country this year. They did that last year. They are looking to buy a home and settle down. So if you're looking, and people have asked me, I got this question yesterday. I'm going to go get my haircut tonight. I guarantee I'm going to be asked that question tonight. When should I buy a house? Okay, well, look at the 10-year, 4.296%. We get another drop here, and you're going to start to see home buying. Look at that D.R. Horton. Look at that pop in D.R. Horton. There it is.
Yeah,
it's all the way down.
You caught me too quick, though, because then you went to the 10-year, so I went to bring that up on you. So
we're getting
I always
where people are looking to buy homes.
Yeah, those that don't know, I always go to D.R. Horton as a great place to sort of look. They're one of, if not the largest builder, they are in the top few. And we pointed out at 125. I liked them at 125.52. It's made a nice little move up. We talked about that earlier this week, right? I do think that home builders are where you win in this market because they buy down rates. They are the lender that gives you the loan so they can play with those rates. Because what do they do as soon as they finish that loan? They sell it off.
That's right.
They sell it to a big company. Our mortgage here, the wife almost had a heart attack. She thought someone had stolen our title or something because we got a note, now you're, JP Morgan now holds your mortgage. You deal with us now.
They buy and sell those your mortgages off to. It'll probably get bought and sold 4 more times before you're done.
Absolutely, without a doubt there. So we are about 2 minutes away. Steve, you thinking we see a plus day through the day? I think we see a little bit of sell-off here before we get ready for the NVIDIA earnings.
Look, FOMO is everywhere. Fear of missing out, and the fear of missing out. This is how it's always going to be. I've been doing this 34 years. Look, the market is about one thing and one thing only. It's the path of what? Least resistance. And right now, the least resistance is to the downside. Okay, fine. Great. Let them sell off. Capitulation happened yesterday. We saw that already. So, all right, I'm buying here. Let the sellers sell. Go ahead, be scared, and guess what? I'll laugh at you in the summertime.
Absolutely. I don't argue that at all. I feel the same way there. On that, we are getting ready here to open. Advanced decline is dropping here. I think we're going to see a little bit of a sell-off here, and then I think we roll once NVIDIA's earnings come out this evening. So that's my call on this so far, and we'll go from there. 85,779. Like I said, Bitcoin going back to 8,500 here, 85,000. It should be not 8,500. Oh my god.
There you go. Gold dropping again. I mean, it just got in there.
There's a sell-off. I think there's a disconnect again still between Main Street and Wall Street that the White House needs to figure out.
Well, I mean, you have a president who says he doesn't care about the stock market, so I mean, that's concerning to me.
Yeah, we are open here. A tick to the downside to start off with. Let's see. I'm going to watch the Mag 7 here on the open. Let's see what we get. Nvidia at 112. What do we got? Come on, Nvidia.
Nvidia 130. I mean, I'm not even looking. I don't even care.
129.90 there. Nice little move up here by Amazon this morning, too, up almost a percentage point here. Now up a percentage point and moving to the upside. So we are seeing a little bit of move to the upside so far. Advanced decline actually moved down. So a lot of things that weren't opened on the downside. Dow Jones is opening up slightly positive, 7 basis points. So far, the winner being RUT and QQQ, both up about 35 basis points here. I'll take a look at the select spider funds, see if we see any sectors running away here. So far, energy opening up to the downside. It is Tech XLK opening up to the upside about 78 basis points. We see XLY, which I believe is consumer discretionary, up 65 basis points, and XLI, which is the industrials, up about 46 basis points. On the downside, it looks like XLV. I'm not actually familiar with that one offhand. That's healthcare. Healthcare is down about a half a percentage point already this morning. So we'll keep an eye there. I want to watch VIX today too. Personally, it's at 1921, spiked up yesterday pretty nicely. We'll see what happens there. Nvidia running away here now. Nvidia is already starting to get.
Did you listen when I said stay long Nvidia? I mean, they were trying to work people out of the position. That's all there was to it. They're trying to work you out. We're at 131.19 right now. 131.30,
yeah.
131.50 now.
Yeah, it's spiking pretty hard.
And yesterday's sell-off is gone.
Let's see what we have here. Tick still negative though, 175. Advanced decline still sliding down slightly. Ooh, big sell-off in Nvidia there. Dollar in about a second right there. So someone's taking a little bit of profit here.
Let them. They're nervous. Yeah. I get it. Let them. But 131.10, 131. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Look, the 0 DTEs are taking profit. It's fine. I did see the new numbers on 0 DTE losses for retail. It's extraordinarily high. We talked about this for a while, and it's going to get worse. And eventually people will say, I don't want to do this anymore. Duh.
Yeah, I mean, that is the goal. First Solar moving up really nicely here now, up 8.24%. So we do have some runners moving here today. Like we said, Super Micro up about 20%, Axon up 20%, and Tuit up 13.38. See First Solar up 8.24 now, moving to the upside. General Motors up 6.4% today too. Meant to mention that earlier. It is moving to the upside.
Eli Lilly up another $2 today.
And then if we look on the other side of that, our laggards on the day so far, if TradingView will play with me here.
SMCI was up about 20%, now only up 12% here.
Looks like big
back to $90.
We're seeing a lot of the healthcare again. Molina, Centene on the Elevance are the losers so far on the day. Nothing else there really catching my eye. Extra Space Storage. I know they had earnings today. They had a miss. They're down. DR Horton, like you said, down about 1.71%. Could be an interesting one again if it enters that 125 area to look at here. General Motors really moving up nicely. You mentioned that they had raised their quarterly dividend by 25%. And they announced a $6 billion share buyback. So moving up nicely here on that news.
That's what companies do when they have this much cash in the balance sheet, right? And you can borrow cheaper. You can just buy your stock back. And guess what? Your company's worth goes up. So that's something else that when you see stocks falling like this and you see cheaper dollar, guess what they're going to do? They're going to buy their own stock back and burn those shares and keep their price up, right? That's smart. Yeah, this is too easy sometimes.
Seem to be capping out at about 515 here on the Qs. Hasn't been able to really break above it so far right now at about 515.04, but struggling a little bit each time it hits that area. We can see here this morning that 515.87 I was looking at yesterday. It hasn't even challenged that level yet today. So we'll keep an eye there. VIX is up above 1950 again here, so we're seeing that. Gold below 2,900, so it lost that 29 handle. Bitcoin bounced back nicely, getting closer to the 86 level than to that $85,000 level I'm looking for. See a little bit of a pullback on the ADR names. BABA now up 3.83%, was up significantly higher earlier this morning. So we are seeing a little bit of profit taking for sure. Base up 10.15% here. Crunchbase up nicely 10.15% here so far this morning.
I saw the new numbers for Brazil. Their job market is surging there. Another 137,000 jobs were added in January versus 48,000 expected. We've been talking about this. You heard it from Ray Dalio. China, Brazil, India, the BRICS, they're doing well, right? That's why you should be thinking about those. It's already, I mean, we talked about that months ago. That's what we're trying to tell you. A lot of traders are trading based on what they see right now. I'm trading based on what I see in the future. I'm not buying NVIDIA because of what's going on today. I'm buying NVIDIA for the future. I'm investing in the future. Yeah, I can trade at 0 DTs, all that nonsense. Great. Fine. Fantastic. Have fun. Go gamble. You can go to Hard Rock. But when I look at it from the perspective of LATAM, and I say, look, the best country in LATAM right now, moving up, we said this back in November and December, is Brazil. Brazil is exploding. Brazil is a huge agriculture area too as well. They're doing very well in the services. I mean, you see all that, right? Look at Brazil today. The numbers are up. Everybody's going down to Carnival. That's where it's at, right? So when I'm looking at the market in the future, remember, I think that people need to understand one thing about the stock market. The stock market is always ahead of itself. And I always look at the difference. What does that mean? Well, in some cases, the stock market is usually 6 months ahead of itself. Sometimes the stock market is 2 years ahead of itself. Right now, I think the market's about 1.5 years ahead of itself. That's where I think we're about where we are right now. What does that mean? That means the people that are investing right now with this high inflation valuations, right, is that we think that in 1.5 years, the company will be worth the valuation that we're seeing, right? The valuations will come down, the PEs will come down, it'll match. That's what's happening right now. So I think that's what's happening. I think people are just trying to tighten it up a little bit because they're not really sure what Trump is going to say today, and he's going to go in the toilet and tweet something out, and the market corrects. Look at that. NVIDIA back to 131. That's what I'm saying to you. Don't worry about these little minutia moves. Pay attention to what you're thinking about in the future. Be more of an aggressive thesis trader. Think about it from the stock pickers. We told you this. That Ray Dalio is telling you this. Warren Buffett is telling you this. Be a stock picker. Find the right countries. In his case, China. In my case, I'm still staying LATAM, as well as China. I'm saying that stick with AI because AI is going to be bigger in the future. All of these things, and you're going to wake up a month or two down the road and you're like, "How'd that stock get there?" Right?
Yeah. Personally, for me, I'm looking in Japan. I like the big trading houses, as does Mr. Buffett. I've been railing that for the last 4 months, 5 months. That is an area that I like. Companies like Sumomoto, MF.
Jeff Bezos just said that change is coming to the Washington Post. They think they just fired the editor, the opinion editor.
Whoa, that is a big deal. I got to be honest. I don't read the Washington Post anymore.
We're just hearing reports now that Elon Musk's team has now terminated hundreds of government leases, according to the WAPO as well.
So I mentioned that I have a friend that was involved at being doged out, who was in charge of those facilities, and they are definitely canceling leases. He's been complaining for 3 years about how people haven't come back to the office, and the government's been wasting a huge amount of money on
that's obvious,
space.
And that's better than firing people. Do that. Save money there. You don't need to fire the people that have their fingers on the nuclear button, right?
If you don't need the leases, just cancel them. Get out of those leases. Yeah. So I do think that is a strong,
and turn those buildings into mixed use, right? With apartments and restaurants. And look, there are some major buildings in Washington, D.C. that could easily be turned, that are ugly as hell. It could be easily turned into something very cool, right? I mean, the FBI building could be completely redone, made it into a nice complex.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that several times in DC. Yeah, for sure. Alibaba up 4.16, so it is rebounding to the upside. JD up 6.54. So again, Chinese ADR is sort of leading the way, especially when it comes to the e-commerce sector. Banks getting a little bit of love today. JP Morgan up a 0.5 percentage point. Bank of America up a 0.5 percentage point. Wells Fargo up almost 1 percentage point. Same thing with Morgan Stanley. So, they've been beaten up a lot here over the last few weeks. So it's good to see some of the financial sector moving back in. All you got to do is look at JP Morgan here. They've just gotten destroyed over the last 4 or 5 days trading session.
Intel's up 2% right now.
Yep. Chip sector, we see a mixed bag so far, but most of them are up. Texas Instruments and ADI, the two that are down. Big winner right now is Micron up 4.19%. I want to see what Marvell's doing. Marvell's up about 3%. That's what I'm sort of watching as a sympathy play, maybe going into tonight's NVIDIA earnings. They tend to follow NVIDIA with a sympathy play. I'm not quite sure why they seem to get the most move in following them, but it's one that I've noticed it has, and it's got some nice upside. So I'm keeping an eye on Marvell today on any kind of sympathy play on NVIDIA. So definitely want to keep an eye on, in my opinion, today. As we take a look here, tick is positive now, about 277. Advanced decline sticking around the same area, though, that 1800 area, not really moving one way or the other. QQQ is still stuck right around that 515 level. Dow unable to really make a move to the upside, sitting at 43,621. Now has just gone red on the day. RUT up about 0.7 percentage point, the big winner so far. Bitcoin back above 86 nicely, 86,500. So nice move up here. Does look like people are buying that dip on Bitcoin, Steve.
Yeah, of course they are. And I'll tell you something else. I just saw this 2 seconds come in, that the Mexico's president Sheinbaum is now in talks with Treasury Secretary Vicente. There's not going to be tariffs. I think the tariff talk is getting to be a little bit too loud, and I think that the Trump administration, the White House, is starting to realize we can't do this. I think people are getting angry. Either it's even in the White House. They're having arguments in the Oval Office now at this point. Agreed. Stop the nonsense. This tariffs don't work. Never worked. They haven't worked since ever, and it almost ruined the country in the 1930s. So we know that this isn't. I agree with the president on this. We are not in trade balance with other countries. We need to have a trade balance, but tariffs aren't the answer. Make better products. Be more competitive.
Invest in America.
Invest in America. That's right. Agree with that. Yep. But we're gonna put a tariff on your country because why? Because you make a better product. You have a better quality product than us. That's wrong, right? So I agree with that. No. Just
Steve, what are you thinking about Google here? Down another 1.3%.
I like Google. I don't care if it's selling.
Yeah. Yesterday.
I like Google still. It's getting cheaper and cheaper by the day, and I love that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's what happens, right? The fear of missing out. Oh my God, I should be shorting Google. No, that's silly. Google is still Google. Now, they've made some good partnerships with Gemini, with Apple. I talked about that on Schwab yesterday, and I think they're going to do very well. And those kind of things are really good. So, people are still Google searching. They're not searching as much. They are using ChatGPT much more. They're using Perplexity a lot more. But no, Google's not going anywhere right now.
I will say this is the first time they've dropped below the 200-day MA until you get back to last September.
And what happens every time it does that?
Well, it moves right back above it. As you can see, it's you'd have to look for it hasn't traded under that since March of 2023, basically.
Now I'll tell you want to talk about thesis trading here. WTI oil 68.81 now a barrel. We're below the 70 handle, right? Why is that important? Well, we know that there's an issue at the refineries, right? Oil, this drill, baby drill, it could not be more dumber than I've ever heard. We have so much oil in this country. We don't need to keep drilling. We don't need to open up the ANWR. If you don't know, that's the Alaska Natural Wildlife. We don't need to open up ANWR. We don't need to open up any more drill. We don't need to drill. We just need to be able to refine what we have, right? We have so much oil. We have a glut of oil. That's why oil is $68 a barrel. The problem is refineries. When we know that, right? And here's the problem. If you start drilling in places where there are no refineries,
it's useless. It's stranded energy, basically. It's more money. It costs too much to get it. That's right. Well, that's what you've talked about, Steve. You haven't mentioned that in a while, so maybe you could bring it up. you know, what that means, and that, you know, we've seen a move away from pipelines, right? Everybody doesn't want a pump line running through the thing, and that's really the only way to move
Smart.
oil at a big
Pipelines. The XL pipeline was the dumbest thing ever, right? I think we should have had it because it helps, but we don't need more pipelines. With the cost of building a pipeline, and by the way, you lose energy in that pipeline, by the way. I'm sorry if I'm getting too deep in the woods with oil for those of you, but if you want to learn, I'll teach you. There's maps. I don't know if maybe Howard can pull up a map of the pipelines of the United States. But it's expensive to pump. It costs money to pump. It costs money to build the pumps. It costs money to keep the security on the pumps. It keeps the security on the lines. It's a lot, right? Build refineries near the pumps where we drill, right? That's much better. Now, that's expensive to build a refinery. That's right. Well, we don't need a refinery because we're going to natural gas, or we're going to electricity. That's right. It's true. And we are seeing that in numbers too. But when you look at the refineries, they're in Louisiana, Texas. Look at them. You can see where the pipelines are. Guess where they're all going? Down to the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, by the way, not Gulf of America. For those of you, I don't care about politics. That's silly too. Yeah, look, when you see those pipelines, where are they all going? To the cities, right? But they're going to the refineries. Where's the crude? Where's the natural gas? So if you see refined crude, light sweet out of it, they're going to the Northeast. They're going out the West, right? What does that mean? Well, refined crude is after crude's been pumped. Now, what is crude? See the crude is? That's in the orange. That's where crude's being pumped up out of right in Oklahoma and Colorado.
You can see all the way up here in Montana, and then it's coming all the way down.
Yes, but guess where they're coming from? Those lines are coming. You're showing contiguous U.S. They're coming out of Alaska, right? Right. So where are they going to? So if someone pumps more in Alaska, that line has to go all the way through Montana, Idaho, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas. They have to keep pumping it all the way down to where the refineries are. So we know that. Now, here's what happened back in the late 80s, early 90s. ExxonMobil, Shell, all the major corporations, they went and did the drill already. In those 80s during the Reagan term, they did it. They know where the oil is. They put a hole in the ground, came up with it, found oil, put a number on it, put a nice big bow on it, capped it, and left it in the ground. We don't need to keep pumping. We don't need to do anything. It's already
what Steve's
there.
Talking about there are a lot of oil-rich areas that have the wells already dug, and they're just waiting for when they need them, because gas does eventually run out in different areas, or oil runs out in different areres. So they move. So they're always exploring. They're always looking.
App loading has been halted here.
To the downside.
And when you look at it from that perspective, look, and oil companies do not like $68 a barrel, right? So what do? They're not going to go tap that oil, that well. They're going to leave it alone. They're going to wait till oil is $200 a barrel. And guess what? Then they're going to tap it. They don't need to drill at that point. They already got the oil. They just pump it right out of the ground. That's why Saudi Arabia does so well. It's a contained area of what it's called the Ghawar. If you don't know, the Ghawar oil field. And for those of you who don't know, the Ghawar oil field in Saudi Arabia is running out of oil. I think it's probably got another 5 to 10 years left. Now, I know they found a little bit more oil, but not much more oil. They got about 5 to 10 years. And guess where the Saudi Arabia is going to have to go to get oil eventually? Where we export it, us. So that's what we're doing. The whole oil thing is nonsense. People in Texas, they're not waiting because they're pumping it out, but oil gets to $100 a barrel. They're not going to go import it from Saudi Arabia. They're going to go pump it out of the ground, right? And make $100 a barrel and we get it refined. So that's what's happening right now.
I want to point out Steve Palantir, nice move up here, 2.36, bounced pretty much right at that zone I pointed out yesterday as an interesting spot, 83.62. So if you got in that on that suggestion yesterday, it's made a nice move up here.
I said anything under $90, I liked it better. Did not like it at 100. I liked it under $90. Now remember, I was buying Palantir at 30s, in the 30s. So for me, seeing it up here at 100 still is a little scary to me, and we're not there. But they do have all of the contracts, and Elon is taking advantage of the AI side of the contracts for the AI side. So I like that. So
we are still continuing to see the tick move in the green and advanced decline move further into the green, 27.52 to the upside. It hasn't made a big move on either the SPY or QQQ. Both of them still about the same levels. QQQ's moved up about $1. It opened up around 515 and change, and the SPY is up about the same. Not much there. What's really moving here is the RUT. The small market cap are moving up tremendously. Was that because of the rates, Steve? You know, you talked before we opened about how rates are moving in the right direction down, and you see a nice move up by the RUT, which had really gotten hurt here starting back in the beginning of February, dropped down from that 20 over the 2300 level down here to 2150 or so, making a nice little recovery. You trust in this move up?
Yes, I do.
I like it.
I think that's what I've been pounding the table for months now, right? That we definitely need to see rates coming down, right? We need to see rates coming down so that small businesses can borrow so that they can make their manufacturing or whatever they need to do. Small businesses need rates down. Now, I'm not agreeing with Trump on the way of doing this. This is not a smash and grab where you destroy the whole country to lower rates. Right. I think I saw a tweet the other day. It's like someone trying to make a steak by burning the house down, right? You don't need to do that. But I will also say he's right, because the Fed is not doing their job. Once again, they're saying how great of a job they're doing by we need to raise rates. We don't need to lower them because of inflation. Inflation is not that sticky, folks, right? And we just saw a Treasury Secretary Bissent and the Agriculture Secretary did a smart thing. He said, we're going to import more eggs to lower the price of eggs. That's what you do. Are you going to tariff eggs now? Are you going to tariff the country that brings us eggs? No, you don't. Yeah. You make a better product. If we need more eggs to lower the price, you import them. It's pretty simple. This administration needs to understand common freaking sense, right? And I think some of it's now starting to seep in a little bit. So I like this a little bit.
AST Space Mobile now up 15.78%, making a nice move. There are a few new things in the spikers so far that I didn't see this morning. BitDeer moving up nicely. BitDeer was a Bitcoin mining company. I believe that they've moved more into AI data centers now, but they were very big into the Bitcoin mining, up about 12.53% here this morning. Not seeing any news there. No, well, it is. Yep, they had their earnings. There you go. They had an earnings miss yesterday that brought them down, and they're getting a little bit of that bounce back today. So we do see that in play. Tick nicely over 500 here, Steve. Advanced decline just broke 3,000, and we can see again the RUT moving up now 1.13%. SPY is moving up now 0.6. So we're starting to see a little bit of tailwinds start to pull us up here. Looks like some of that early morning sell-off is moving out of the market.
Yeah, I'm not scared.
back up 15%. ZI up 15.69%, Axon up 13.91. Intuit's the one that sort of spiked here, and Futu, which is Futu Holdings Company, one of the Chinese ADRs, up 11.4 here. I'm trying to see if there's any that have sort of pulled back. I'm also seeing CRDO with a nice move up since the open. That CRDO Technologies, another one of those AI names out there, like Pony AI just below it. All the AI names moving up. Rigetti up 7.25%. Tempest has lost. It was up over 6%, now only up about 2.22. So that's seeing a little bit of a pullback. SOU and another of the AI names up 6.74%. RKLB, another one. Rocket Labs up 3.25. Steve, I got one for you. I didn't know we could buy the Atlanta Braves. Did you know that?
Yeah, you can buy a lot.
I didn't know that one. BATRK, for those that don't know, is the Atlanta Braves holding. They were up a lot in the pre-market. They're now not up nearly as much. They were over $40.
And you can buy Man U. You can buy Manchester United. There's a lot of
Manchester United. I knew you could buy Madison Square Garden, which gives you a little bit of the Knicks and stuff in there.
And MSG is different. Yeah, MSG is different because you can buy entertainment, you can buy sports side, you can buy.
MSG gives you a few different things, but I didn't know this Atlanta Braves one. I really didn't know that one. So that one caught me by surprise. Not that they're a team you and I would root for anyways. So. Did you say you were going to a baseball game today, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to go see the my Cardinals and the Yankees. Interestingly enough,
you going with Mickey G to that?
I am, yes.
I'm sure he's listening this morning. Nikki, you guys have a good time. Keep my man out of trouble, please.
That won't happen.
You two, yeah. Did you have we have bail money ready for you already? Those
I'm
were
gonna
in
get a
the old
haircut
days.
later.
Although I did notice you got a little, the shirt today is a little flashy, Steve. You
Yeah.
know, reminded
Well,
me of
I
your
gotta put the
VC in the
jersey on a
80s.
little bit. Oh, look at this. Nvidia now the highs of the day, right? It's if you whether or not you're willing to deal with the nonsense of the day in and day outs, right? And we're seeing that now, right? Hey, I want to thank everybody yesterday for Schwab Network that watched me. We hit 250,000 views on that. Yeah, 250,000 views. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Definitely. And our explainer video got 1.5 million views so far. So money.net, Benzinga, and all the companies that are watching us out there. Hey, love it. And we're an ecosystem. We don't believe in just being ourselves. We bring in everybody else in, right? It's Quasar Markets is about all the markets, all the people. We love this, right? We love everybody. So bring it in, professionals. Coming in. We love this, right? So, hey, we want to see more of this. If you want to see specific interviews or people out there being interviewed, let us know. We're doing that now. We're going to be going 24/7 very soon on the videos. Howard's going to be a very busy human being. He's going to set those up. But look, the speed at which we're growing. We're about to hit 100,000 followers on Twitter. Thank you so much. We're shooting for 250,000 in the next few months. So we're on our way, well on our way. The numbers are there. So thank you.
I do want to mention, Steve, we have a great segment today at 1:30. I've got Dan Kazarian, a good friend of yours that you go on the Wolf Sports Network with. Dan is one of the leading guys. I mean, I used to watch him on ESPN back in the day. He was one of the original sports betting and gambling experts. He's coming on today, going to talk about his platform that may very well end up as part of the Quasar Markets, modules. And very excited to do that. So make sure you tune in for that. We have a great today at 12 o'clock. We have got Agnieszka Wood, our trading mindset coach. Make sure you do that. Today we're doing an Ask Her Anything question. So please come on in, ask her questions. She will tell you how you can settle yourself, how you don't get yourself psyched out of the market, and how you can benefit, from learning a few tricks and tips that she uses with her clients to get them the best trading results they can get. So excited about that today. Also, we got a big day. Prosper Trading folks are back from their ski trip, so we have them on at 1 o'clock today. Also, got a busy day today here across Quasar Markets, without a doubt. Bitcoin, Steve, 87,275. So people buying that dip without a doubt here in a pretty big way so far this morning.
I mean, it is what it is. We've been saying it. Look, if you're scared, go home. Turn your machines off. Turn your computers off, and go stick your head in the sand. Right? This is not the market for those people that are crying about the market. This is a market for professionals, no doubt about this. And I get it, and we want to give you professional advice. Right? We're not here to tell you what to buy or sell. But I've been doing this for 34 years. I want to help people, right? I mean, I was watching somebody the other day. They're a professional and they have 2 years of knowledge in the markets. I mean, it took me 2 years to even begin to understand the markets, right? Not 34 years. So
Trivago moving up here nicely, 16.53% here. So we got a little bit of a pumper on Trivago. They're coming up on trying to approach the all-time high here that it hit earlier this month. So nice little move up here by Trivago. Again, that is TRVG, one of the early morning pumpers here. SMCI, Huron Consulting, Zoom Info. Not seeing anything else really move into it. Madrigal Pharmaceuticals, not familiar with that one. MDGL.
Madrigal's a big company.
They are moving up nicely today, up 13.95%. I'm assuming there's going to be some information here. Here we go. It says they announced positive results from their Maestro NAFLD1 trial for Rezdiffra. Let me pull that up so I can see.
Madrigal's a very, very good company, by the way.
For patients with compensated MASH cirrhosis. So more of a novel drug than your cancer oncology drugs or so forth, but moving up nicely on that news today. So MDGL again moving up nicely. Let's take a look here, see what else comes across the pumpers. Super macro, nothing else really moving in. They've all sort of been here for the morning. Again, AI has a lot of it. You've got Pony AI, you've got Data, Intuitive Machines. We know we talked about that already. NRG Energy still moving up. Li Auto, they actually had their first EV SUV this week released. They're looking good too. Soundhound with a nice move up again to SOU and AI again all over the place. GE Verona up nicely along with NFG. They announced again that they are building 4 new power stations to power AI centers. Okay, we are at the 10 o'clock hour, which means we are ready to talk Forex with the man himself, Mr. Flanagan. Let's get him on in here.
And I need a bounce, but Steve, have a good week. Listen, keep that dollar in check, man.
Steve, you're muted. Check your mute, Steve.
You too, Steve. You have a great day. And here we go. Off on a Wednesday, middle of the week. And like we talked, the wave is crested. Now's the time to look in and get in midweek. All the shake and bake is done.
Yeah. DXY, I have to say, it hasn't been able to break across that threshold we talked about on Monday, right? The 106.54. We were looking at 106.80 for the move. You said if it gets above that, look for it to trigger into a long position there. But we haven't seen it so far. It's been rejected all 4 days this week.
That's exactly correct. However, what I wanted to say is what we talked Monday, we are in a sideways trading pattern awaiting new news. If you can bring up that dollar index for me, Howard, I had a little problem loading in this morning. So
no problem.
I look at the dollar index chart right now, and yes, we're having trouble at the 106.80 resistance. But what was last Friday's close? 106.61. And we're sitting right around that zone right now, 106.5 right now.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm watching. What I would say, can you do a comparison overlay on your charts?
Yeah, what do you want on there?
Okay, I'd like to bring up the dollar yen.
USD JPY?
Yep. The thesis.
I just wanted to make sure I got it the right direction.
Yep. The thesis of my talking currencies is how money moves first. And what I want to show you as a great example to that is when I overlay the dollar yen, if I look at this year, for example, 158.86 has been the high in the dollar yen on January 9th. That was a Thursday.
Yep.
Money moving first, it peaked and starts to come off. Well, as dollar yen has come off to our low now of a... where are we right now? Dollar yen right now, 149.80.
Yeah.
So dollar yen on 2 days, on Thursday, puts a peak in. And on Monday, if you look at I'm sorry, when I'm talking about, I got this all wrong. Let me go back. The dollar index should be overlaid with the NASDAQ.
You got it. Give me 1 second. I was wondering where you were going there. I'm like,
well,
it's part of the component. Doesn't that make it a little harder?
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
I'm going to use QQQ here, just easier for me.
Right. Okay. And what I would look at was the NASDAQ topped shortly thereafter.
Yeah, right here. Oh, you mean in January? January, right here. Yep.
Yep. So what I look at, what I try to look at is I'm trying to watch dollar yen as a key barometer of money moving first. And when the dollar yen tops, things begin to happen because so much of the world has used a financing tool of a low rate currency than the dollar yen. And that's been going on for 20 years. So old tricks, have a very tough time of learning new. So dollar yen by topping has indicated that money was beginning to move. So if I keep going on and looking, if I move into the euro dollar, the biggest component of our dollar index, what I'm looking at there is on Friday close of 104.70. and we're presently in around the 104.91 level. So here we are midweek, and yet on a week-to-week basis, we're struggling to keep the euro dollar above last Friday's close. So you may ask why I use Friday's close, because every single computer in the world uses a Friday 5 p.m. close as a currency signal because the markets close Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
So Friday is where so many of these new weighting decisions are made. So with all the news and calamity that we've seen Monday, Tuesday, here we are on a Wednesday, and the dollar is telling you it's yawning. It's having a difficult time going lower.
Right. Absolutely.
So this kind of sets up, that's the level to watch. Now, I'm not suggesting here to be a long dollar player, but you have definitive marks in which to react. If the dollar index holds this Friday close of 106.61 and begins to break higher, 106.80 is the technical point. We break that level, look for a renewed strength in the U.S. market. That's the way I'm using money moving first to graphically give you points in to look at.
Absolutely. So just to reiterate that and clarify a little bit. So you're saying you're watching right here, and if we can get above the 106.8, you think it's going to lead us to a higher move in the stock markets, also the U.S. stock market.
The U.S. markets.
Yeah.
And, when I begin to look at that, I'll bring the euro dollar up because it's over 50% of the dollar index.
Right. Absolutely.
And if you quickly look, you've already got a number of ECB officials coming out before their blackout and saying, rates have to begin to move, continue to move lower. But then you've got all the hawks coming out and saying, well, just because the economy is shrinking, remember, Germany's GDP was negative, and Germany's fourth quarter the consumer confidence that came out yesterday was minus 24.7, which is cratering lower. So what they're saying now is the hawks are saying, well, that doesn't necessarily mean we've got a lower rates. Look, Europe is so far behind the curve. We've got to see the European ECB moving rates down. So that's something I want to focus. When I begin the dollar index, I subdivide it by looking at the euro dollar. And Absolutely. The euro dollar, to me, again, using that Friday close, 104.70, and we're sitting at 104.90-ish right now, a hair above. So were I to continue to see the U.S. markets trade lower, I would expect that the euro dollar is going to trade back above 105, but we have pretty multiple tops in the euro dollar around the 105.30-40 level going back to December 24.
Yeah.
So, as Steve was talking, I've tried to looking at the tea leaves and looking forward to make my decisions. I see that there's a toppy formation in the euro dollar. I see a bottomish formation in the dollar index. And those are things that I look at to get
For me too, from a TA side, I'm looking down here at my RSI and saying, look at that. It can't break 60. It keeps getting stuck at that 59.94. So we're not seeing, like you said, the vacuum come. What's happening is it's getting to that top and it's draining back down. We're not seeing the impotence to get us through there. And it's going to take something on the RSI in the range, in my opinion, of that 70 area to probably see that.
Exactly, Howard, and to use one of the buzzwords we use in the market, there is diversion, meaning that the RSI or stochastics models are having a difficult time extending up, which means if the price does trade up, the momentum is not behind the trade. And you look in those situations, that diversion often indicates a top and then
heavy. Right. A top heavy position. I love it. Yep. That's exactly how I look at it. And especially when I see it, as you said, pointing going back all the way to January. When you get back here and see what it was doing, we can see the part of that was because there was no interest in the euro dollar leading up to that first run. So what I'm more looking at is the second run up to that level, knocked right down there, third knock up, knocked down, and then this past week it's done it twice. So, you tend to run out of steam. And what I'm noticing, the only thing that I would say is what I've noticed on the lower side of this is you still do have an upward trending bottom trend line. So like you said, you got to keep an eye on it because it could get above that 105.3. And if it does, it's going to get that momentum most likely.
Most likely, yes. And again, I'm not saying that we look to be buying dollars. I'm just simply painting a picture in my eyes.
Again, what we want to point out to our viewers is what we try to do is point out what has happened in the past and how it should play out or how we expect it to play out in the future. It isn't 1,000%. Anyone that tells you they've never lost on a trade is lying unless they made one trade. It's like the people that say they bought the top or they sold the bottom. There's only one person that can do that in both ways, right? And, it doesn't always, it's not usually you. It's usually an algo. So, that's one of the things I want to point out is what we're trying to show you, and with Steve's experience, in this market, is what over the last 35, 40 years has proven to be technicals that repeat itself on a regular basis, right?
Correct. And, things that could break that scenario clearly is NVIDIA earnings after the market closes tonight. Were they to come in very bad or projections are very bad, then, of course, there's going to be a new data point, and that could push the market. What I'm indicating is now the top side, and now the downside.
Absolutely.
When you have definitive levels that you can trade on, it makes trading much easier in using this technical analysis because now you can say a follow-through move up, the U.S. markets continue down, or NVIDIA had good earnings, money starts moving back in, and now you know where the break point is on the downside. But a couple of other ingredients go in when you look forward and look out over through the forward, the windshield, and try to look at the road ahead instead of using data analysis.
You don't like to use the Fed's way of doing it?
Looking in that rearview mirror, trying to drive forward. It's tough. You miss the turns. But the U.S. House budget package was approved last night. Now that moves to the committees now. And as I've been saying, we've got to see our legislative branches of government now moving and doing their part. Absolutely. That is the biggest thing that we can look at on the horizon. So it's past hurdle one. Now it moves into the next. Oil, lowest levels since December. Yeah. Oil is such a huge stimulus because it's used in everything we do, in particular driving. Consumer confidence was much lower, so that's kind of be the overhang and the wet blanket, but that was looking back again. Right. And then Zelensky is set to sign this natural resource agreement, another positive factor in the marketplace. So the ingredient
that's an interesting one. We have a very, some people that work in the high up in, the past administrations that are things here in Quasar. They've pointed out that Zelensky doesn't have the ability to sign this, that he is not the president currently of the Ukraine because there's no election. There hasn't been an election, that he's a de facto leader, and that it is, that this is nothing more than posturing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out there. And this comes from people that are in the know, that have been in the State Department for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot. I just want to point out because it is, I was quick to point out yesterday when that came out, that news, and was, sort of rebuffed. And then after listening to the rebuttal, I have to take it into account that there are some obstacles not there. We know that sometimes the news that comes out first isn't always the news that is later, reported. So we'll see how that works out.
We'll see how that works out. But, naysayers are the biggest thing. If I look, the first headlines I see today are how tariffs and how Trump tax cuts are going to cause inflation. I'm sorry, going to cause. Where were these people a year and a half ago when we said inflation was transitory? Were they then saying that inflation was going up? So I see, naysayers are the ones that don't have a clear vision of the future. We signed an agreement with the Ukraine. It kind of gets embedded into, and I do agree about that election is not necessarily the president, but that agreement becomes a de facto to whoever is elected next. So, whether that's, if you want to get into the weeds and start looking at the technicals, there's always going to be someone who puts their hands up and says, I don't think that's going to happen. But the fact is that these are the positive ingredients that are moving into the marketplace to support the bottoming type of move I think I can see happening here in the dollar index. And that's really why I bring it up.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into, you're right, I have zero knowledge of the State Department and things when it comes to that, but I kind of react to the data, the new data, and that's how I'm looking at it.
Absolutely. We want positive movement there. And, the bottom line is we want the war to end. However that does come about, one way or the other. I just wanted to point it out because, again, this was coming from people that are part of the current administration. So they're not naysayers by any means. They're actually people working on this project. And they're pointing out, though, the obstacles still in the way, that the media isn't. That's why I'm reporting it, because the media isn't pointing out some of these things, that it isn't as easy as a signature on the line and we just move forward. Like you're saying, what it does is it hopefully can move confidence back in the right way that we've seen, and maybe end the disconnect that we're seeing between Main Street and Wall Street right now that I think you pointed to, which is Wall Street seems to think the market is doing a little bit better than Main Street thinks the market is doing. And that disconnect is there now. And all you have to do is listen to the fights over egg prices. And, CNBC was rallying on beef prices today, which have been up also. But everybody knew that it was because of the feed costs that went up and everything else. But they were just, they had to take that one because they're, it's something people realize. What they tend to do is put into lowest common denominators. People are worried about gasoline prices. They're worried about egg prices. They're worried about the cost of their groceries, and if they can buy a home. So that's what they're railing on, today. Tomorrow it will change because NVIDIA will, tomorrow, hopefully, or later today, we get into the part of the market that you and I want to watch is what do the numbers tell us, and they can lead us in the right direction because the rhetoric doesn't matter.
And speaking of tomorrow, we got U.S. durable goods coming out. We got fourth quarter GDP. Both of those numbers are expected to be on the positive side. And Howard, you're nailing it right there. I mean, you're providing data for people to have a forward-looking view. And that is so important than constantly looking at egg prices are higher. Yeah, we all know that. Anybody who's gone out to get a bacon, egg on cheese on a roll knows that the price just went up for breakfast.
Not at McDonald's. Did you see that? McDonald's is rolling out. I meant to say that when Steve was here. McDonald's is rolling out $1 McMuffins, egg McMuffins.
All right, I want to check the quality of that
on
egg.
The amp. Well, no, so McDonald's has done something. Eggs have always been a very big profit maker for restaurants. From someone who comes from that world, right. Egg is the hidden thing. Even today at $8 for a dozen, you're still under $1 for an egg. Usually you're paying. I used to look to pay about 18 cents for an egg, and then you charge $2.50 for it. So McDonald's is trying to get people in the door, and we've seen it work for them. Their stock has rebounded by doing that. They've done the exact opposite of what I thought they should do, which was improve price mix. They're saying, no, our consumer isn't about raising the price mix for them. It's about drawing in more of the lower end side and increasing our walkthroughs. So it's been interesting to watch McDonald's go the opposite of everywhere else. Waffle House by me charges $1 an egg right now. Surcharge, $1 an egg.
Yep. I know. I hear my wife all the time talking about $10 a dozen out here on the island here. Where I live.
Yeah. You don't have many chicken farmers out there you can try to go to either. They frown upon that on the island, I assume.
Yeah, but I'm sure McDonald's using a near and dear critical mass theory. If you charge a lower price, you bring in more people. And
it's also the hype, how long they do it for, and it's only if you were watching before, Steve and I were arguing a little bit. He thinks apps are going away, and he means more about the way that we look at an app today versus how it will evolve in the future. And I was pointing out that with restaurants and some of these things, That's how they're grabbing market share, is they silo you in. If you want that dollar McMuffin, you can't just go to McDonald's. You got to order it through the app. That's how
Absolutely. And, Steve, again, providing that forward-looking guidance that is so critical to making decisions. I don't have really an opinion on the app, but I do have an opinion that I can't wait to see the Apple phone that gets announced in September, because I would think that that's going to be remarkable. And, that could be the impetus behind a surge in an Apple stock. Again,
yeah, Steve likes their announcement on that SE for sure. He's been all over it. Want to get back to Japan for 1 second?
sir.
I know we're going sort of all over the place here, but I did see that their deputy governor Hameno came out earlier this week and signaled that they're going to do a rate hike. Are you buying it, or you think it's more just rhetoric?
I am buying it because on Thursday night, so before we meet on Friday, Friday early Asia, Japan has the watched figure, the CPI for Tokyo that comes out. Now, it was up as high as 3.5% on the most recent. I expect it to come down, but well above the 2% that the Bank of Japan has been talking about. And so I do think that that's going to support that idea that Japan will normalize rates. Remember, we're talking a country that's had zero interest rates for 20 plus years, roughly.
Right.
So also you have industrial production comes out and retail sales. So you have a good hodgepodge of economic releases that come out. The one I watch is the Tokyo CPI. If that comes in 3%, it's going to support a further raising of the rates in Japan. Again, behind the surging yen that I see. The yen surges now on several factors. One, most importantly, safe haven. Two, the world is short yen, and the world has to begin to make payment back. So there's a line in the sand where when you borrowed at 0% or 0.25% in Japan and you sold the yen and bought dollars invested in the US, there's an exchange rate line in the sand. When we begin to break below, you must begin to buy yen to hedge that loan when it comes due.
Right. Absolutely. I can't argue with that. It was an interesting one for me. I do think that they raise rates here, but I'm not the expert that you are, but it just seems like in the tea leaves that it's sort of there. We'll see how that plays out. I did also notice that there was a little bit of strength out of Mexico, Canada, and then Australia based on some commodities news in those countries. It seems to
Canada,
be moving up.
Whereas Canada's trading at 143.30 right now, 143.40. So back up off the floor. We had talked about those lows in the 141, 142 as kind of being now overdone on the downside. Tariff talk, I believe with Steve, and yourself, that it's a great negotiating tool. Mexico is already, meeting with high-level officials. So I don't think that but we want a balanced trade agreement between our neighbors.
Yep.
I don't think I think the dollar MEX right now is a 142.5, 145.5, and it's kind of going to go into one of these flatline moves. The MEX around 2054, in between our levels, 2088 on the top, 20.02 on the downside, smack dab in the middle, still a 9.5% interest rate currency, although their economy is beginning to turn lower.
Yeah.
I am looking for the dollar MEX probably to be a better buy on dips, the dollar versus the MEX. And I am looking for some upside pressure, even if the tariff talk goes away.
Awesome. What else are we looking at going into the weekend, Steve? What do we got going on, or into the end of the week, I should say?
Well,
I'm already ready for the weekend. I guess.
There you go.
It's been a rough week for us, man.
It has been.
This business is a lot tougher when everything's going down. It's all doom and gloom when you talk to people.
But you notice, though, when you talk about that, I had a discussion with someone close to me about this, and I said, well, if you look at the markets Tuesday close, look across the spectrum of markets, 10-year treasuries, bam, straight down. I mean, You've got such an impetus. We didn't even talk about that. I mean,
Yeah,
mortgage
we do need to before we move on. That actually is a great point. Are you
Yep.
buying 4.3 here? We still going to move to the downside?
I don't know. Again, the talking heads, I see, some of the headlines talking recession now. This is an on again, off again. We're growing, we're not growing. Interest rates are coming down. Inflation is coming down worldwide. So the move in inflation, when rates go up, you lock in rates because they are coming back down. 1, 2, on Tuesday's close, look at crypto. Everything crashed, right? Stocks down, dollar index down. So every single one of these financial markets has met the same sort of meltdown scenario. What does that tell you, and why I'm trying to bring this up? It merely means everybody's getting stopped out of positions.
Right. Oh,
That's
yeah.
it. There's no fundamental change in things. Stops. Everybody's getting the king dollar scenario. I'm out. Treasuries going to 5%. I'm out. Crypto going to 150. I'm out. Right? Every one of them is getting stopped out, the scenarios. So look for the floor, and that's what I was trying to provide in looking at Friday's closing levels in the currency markets. Money moves first. Watch where we're closing. Dollar index, something to keep in mind, is 106.61. Mark that one down. That's something very close to look at. If you want to look into under the hood, look at the euro dollar. Friday's close was 104.70. Those are very close levels to watch if this scenario that we're painting is going to come to fruition.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, like always, for bringing all of the news when it comes to currency and just looking at the world markets. Have a great couple of days here. It's you and I on Friday. Steve will be cruising the world. Again, must be nice to be the king. Thank you so much. Now I think I just lost my job.
I'll see you Friday, Howard.
Yeah, we hope. Have a great one, buddy.